So, if you haven't figured it out by now, we're talking about 5 ways you can improve your SEO, that's search engine optimization. And I want to focus today, there's a lot of ways to improve your SEO and a lot of things you need to do. I want to talk about some things that you can do without a web developer today. So, I know we got a couple of web people in here. Other than them, who runs their own website or runs the website for their organization? So, a couple people. I'm hoping that everything we talk about today are things that you can do yourself. And then you can work with whoever built your website or something like that to talk about some of the other things. So, search engine optimization, SEO. What is it? According to Wikipedia, it's the process of affecting the online visibility of a website or web page in a web search engine's unpaid results. It's often referred to as organic results. You've probably heard that buzzword around. The organic just means that it's the results that you didn't pay for. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What that boils down to is you guys want to get your website at the top of Google's first page, right? I did a search, and there are just a quick search, and found a couple of blog posts with like 12 to 15 alternatives to Google. Even I could probably only name 3 or 4. But there's a lot out there. But when your company name becomes a verb, you're the top dog. Simple as that. Nobody says, let me go Bing that. They say, let me Google it, right? Why is this important? Why is search engine optimization important? We all know you need a web presence, but look this up a couple days ago. There are 1.8 billion websites in January of 2018. That number has doubled since 2016. So in the last 2 years, 900 million new websites have popped up. I also I was curious. If you printed out the first page of 1.8 billion websites on regular notebook paper and stacked it up, that would reach 1,118 miles and a little bit of change. That's roughly the distance between where I'm standing and Winnipeg, Canada. So, search engine optimization is important because where's the best place to hide a dead body? Page 2 of a Google search result. No one's ever going to look there. There are 10 unpaid spots on page 1 of Google. 10. So your job, your hope for your website is to be whatever search keyword it is, the top 10 out of 1.8 billion sites. That's a big deal. It's not quite as hard as you think. Out of those 1.8 billion, I clicked the slide a little early, the statistics was about 2 million of those sites receive 50% of all web traffic, so 0.1%. So what isn't search engine optimization? Search engine optimization is not something that you pay for from Google. Now, there are Google paid results, like the first 2 or 3 on every Google search results page is a paid spot. And there's different ways to pay for that. We're not going to talk about that today. I want to talk about how you get those organic results. There is no magic bullet. So there's not one thing that I can tell you all, do this and your search engine results will be right up at the top. Every website is different, every industry is different. So we're going to talk about some generalizations today that I think will help everyone, but it's not necessarily, it's, like I said, it's not the magic bullet. So I'm going to say something that maybe if you've seen me speak before, you've heard me say, and it might hurt some of your feelings. It's not Google's job to find your website. It is Google's job to find the best website for their visitors. It doesn't matter, what you're selling. It doesn't really even matter if you're the only person selling in the area. Google may not list your site because Google is a service too. Google is their own website. Google wants their visitors to find what they're looking for easily. Otherwise, they won't use Google. And if they're not using Google, they've got nothing to sell you for those top spots. How about a little anecdote? I'm trying to say it without mentioning any names. I had a executive at a large company somewhat recently come and tell me that he wanted his charity race to show up top of Google when someone Googled, let's call it a half marathon, the best half marathon in North America. So my answer was probably not something he wanted to hear, but if you want to show up for the best half marathon in North America, the first thing you probably should do is be the best half marathon in North America. Google knows more about it than you do, probably. All right, so the 5 topics today, we're going to talk about your page load speed, broken links and images. Those first 2, these are things that will hurt your SEO. And the last 3 are things you can do to help your SEO. Well, I'll say things you can do if you do right, it will help your SEO. If you do them wrong, it'll actually hurt it too. So speed up your page. Don't make people wait. There we go. I'll also say that if you guys don't like memes, this is going to be a long speech. All right, so desktop page speed has been a ranking factor for Google since 2010. This month, and I don't know if it's happened yet or it's about to happen, but Google announced that in July of 2018, the mobile page speed will also become a factor. So why is that? Why does Google care how fast your page loads? Because it's for their users. They don't want their users coming to Google and then clicking the links and getting frustrated because the page won't load. And your page needs to be about, it's kind of a off topic, Google doesn't care about this speed ranking, but for user experience, you got about 6 seconds to start loading that page and show people stuff, or they're gonna just leave. They're gonna go back to that Google page. So I know there's a lot of things that cause pages to load slow. You could have trying to import too many resources. You can have slow loading, JavaScript, that sort of thing. But 9 times out of 10, the reason your page loads slow or the reason pages load slow that I've seen is because people use ginormous images. Now, it's become a trend to use a big image on your page. What I'm talking about is when you've got a 20 megapixel camera and you take it right out of the camera and drop it on your page, you are forcing people to download 20 megapixels worth of information. And it doesn't matter if you shrink it down to this big on the page, it's still a 20 megapixel image. One of the things you need to do is crop the images. There's a lot of free software out there, so that, and resize it to as big as it's going to be on the page. You know, if it's only going to cover half your page, it doesn't need to be an image large enough to cover the whole screen. The other thing you can do is, and Coleman mentioned the handout, on the front of that is a bunch of terms that I will try to define as I get to them, but if I don't, that's a bunch of jargon and stuff that I catch myself using and forget that other people don't know what it means. The other side, though, is a bunch of links that are useful to you. There's one on there called TinyPNG, and all it does is you upload your images, and it compresses them and makes them smaller, and you download it again. I built the site for Brookshire's when I was there. Their store brand ice cream is called Golden Brook. We did a website for them. One of the pages had some cool little ice cream scoops for each of the flavors, so you can go through and read about all the flavors. I optimized those scoops as much as I could in Photoshop, got them down, and I got the page loading, you know, pretty good for what it is. And then, just out of curiosity, I ran all of those images, there was about 20 of them, through this TinyPNG, and the page loaded 20% faster. Like, I cut down 20% out of those images just by uploading them, downloading them, and using those instead. I didn't change the size of the image. I didn't change the quality of the image. I opened them both in Photoshop side by side, could not tell the difference. So I have no association with that site, just the one I use a lot. For the rest of the stuff, and even for images, there's a site also on your sheet called Google Page Speed Insights. And you will just enter a URL, click test, and it's going to show you all sorts of statistics about how your page loads. Further down in this screenshot, you'll see things like, here are the top things that are slowing your page down. And it's probably going to be images. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, I see 1 or 2 images at the top of that list. And then sometimes it's just things like, If you use a content management system that has a lot of plugins, sometimes those plugins can slow down your site too. So you want to just get that down as low as you can. If that page speed, on this example, the page speed is slow, see that? For mobile, and like I said, that's going to be a ranking factor starting this month.
Did you do your logos that way too?
My logos are a different type of file, call it SVG, that they're just generally much, much smaller files and don't have to be compressed like a JPEG or a PNG image. But if your logo is a JPEG or a PNG, then yes, I would do that with my logo. Point number 2, you want to help the robots crawl your site. Sometimes you hear these called spiders because it's the web and they crawl the web. Somebody really clever came up with that. And the biggest culprit, the things that we can fix without a developer, is broken images and links. I mean, semantic markup, schema.org, all that sort of thing helps search engines crawl your site. But these two things right here, when they're crawling your site, it's like they hit a dead end. And we've all come across them. It's frustrating for your users too. The 404 page, we've all come across that. Coleman apparently came across it on my site this morning because he went to look at it right in the middle of my update. Yeah, there was a 15 to 20 minute window, and that's when Coleman found my site. And the other thing is broken links. Now, so this slows down those search engines. It doesn't stop them from crawling your site, it does slow them down. But the other thing it tells Google and other search engines is that your site probably has a bad user experience. And just like that page speed metric, they don't want to send people to a site that they're going to get frustrated, because if all they're showing people are bad sites, their users are going to leave too. You know, this isn't really part of my original idea for the presentation, but I don't know if you can read this. It says alt tag info shows here. When you see these missing images, sometimes you'll see some alt tag info. If you guys have a content management system on your site, I will guarantee that there's a way to add alt tag information when you upload an image. Different systems use a different method, but that alt tag, what it's for is to tell Google and to tell screen readers for like ADA compliance and that sort of thing what that image is. And I see a lot of people do things like, oh, well, just name it the name of the page or name of the file or something like that. Take a minute and write a sentence about what that image is about. Yes?
At what point is it bloated for Google to look at? I mean, at what point do you say, like, I want to name this picture, this picture, this picture, and it's like too much for Google that you on the other hand?
You should name and do the alt tag for every image, unless the image is only for decoration purposes. Like if you've got, trying to think of a good example, if you just got like a little flourish that's part of your design or something like that, you don't really have to worry about it with that image. What you need is images that have to do with what the page is about, what the content is about.
And where can we get the, where's a list to show how many like words is the most optimized? And, like, can you find that on Google's site for, because I know they have recommended how many characters and how many, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it varies. Really, I don't focus too much on how many characters. I mean, I wouldn't write 2 paragraphs explaining what a photo is, but just, and we'll talk about this a little later, write like a person. I mean, if a visually impaired person were visiting your site, they have a screen reader that's going to tell them what that picture is based on that alt tag. What would you say to them? I mean, you don't need to go into detail about, you know, it's a little boy wearing a blue shirt on a sunny day, and unless that's important to what the page is about. If it's a blog post about wearing a blue shirt on a sunny day, then that's probably important. Does that make sense? Like, you don't, if you can say it in like one sentence, that's what I would shoot for.
Jeff, when you have like broken links and whatnot, is it easier just to wipe the links off the page completely as opposed to leaving them up there?
Sometimes. Now, if it's a broken link to somewhere else on your site, you need to fix that.
That's the problem.
And I'll just go ahead and plug myself here for a minute. I am working on a web-based application that will crawl your site and point out all of your broken links and all of your broken images and tell you where they are on your site. It should launch by the end of the month. So if you will sign up for my newsletter on millsmultimedia.net at the bottom of the page, I will email you when it's ready, and you guys can all help me beta test it for free.
What makes an image not appear?
It could, same thing as a broken link, it could either the image got deleted by mistake, or like maybe the image name got misspelled or something in your code, that sort of thing. Generally, you'll just be able to like delete what's there and upload the new image, or re-upload the image sometimes. The next, backlinks, is going to be our first like do this right and it will help your rankings instead of showing them. And backlinks are a big deal. A backlink, by definition, is just a mention of your website or blog on another person's website or blog with a link back to it. So when another blog or website links to your website, that's a backlink. When you link to another website, that's a backlink for them. These are a big enough deal to Google that they have created an entire algorithm specifically to check your backlinks. It's an algorithm they call Penguin, and it's one that they started in 2012. And it's not designed to count your number of backlinks. It is designed to check the quality of your backlinks. Prior to 2012, it became kind of a big deal to do something called a link farm. And these companies, you would pay them, and they would put your link out on just hundreds, maybe thousands of sites that they own that are not legitimate sites. Well, Google is smart, and they figured that out, and they figured it out pretty quickly. So they came up with this algorithm to check those links and make sure that they're legitimate links. They check that and compare them through something called domain authority. Domain authority just means the prestige or trustworthiness of a website and its authors. So the more trustworthy a website is, the more trustworthy that backlink is, right? And the more good backlinks you have, the higher the authority of your backlinks, the higher your rankings.
So if you pay for a backlink on someone else's website, as in you're advertising on a homeowners association website, is that considered a good backlink?
Yeah, I mean, the homeowners association would be a good website. If you're paying for a backlink on somebody that built a site called SEO backlinks number 1438.com, then it's probably not. There are like some pretty easy ways to get good backlinks. The first one, you guys should all know already, is the Better Business Bureau website. There we go. I mean, if we're talking about a domain name that is trustworthy, then the BBB, an organization that is about trustworthiness, probably a pretty good bet. Probably already you do, but make sure that your page, your business profile on the BBB links to your website, and actually links to your website, that's not a broken link. You know, if you, especially, I've seen people sometimes that they change their domain or something like that, and they don't go back and check all of those places that link back to them. The other thing is they have a dynamic seal. You can talk to Sophia in their office about getting that. Get that on your website. It's just a little button, goes at the bottom, and again, just kind of links you to the BBB site. Google My Business. I was talking to somebody here already about that. The first thing you need to do after the BBB is go to Google My Business and claim all of your locations. You can look up the locations. They probably already know about them. When I was working at Brookshire's, we started talking to the Google people about offering Android Pay in the stores, right? So we're on the phone with them, and we're talking with them and that sort of thing, and they ask how many locations we had, and we're like, hey, we'll send you a list of all our locations. And they're like, we already have them. we're Google. But you need to go in and tell Google that you're the owner of that business or you're the representative of that business so that you can make sure all that information is accurate. Google My Business used to be called Google Places, if you've heard of that. They've rolled that and all the reviews and that sort of thing into one. You'll see this a lot when you search for something, and you'll get that block on the side that tells you, like, here's a business, has like a map and a link to their website and a little description, 5-star rating or whatever. That's what you're claiming right there. So if you're going to link and you want high authority links to your website, and you can get Google to link to your website, that's probably their biggest, highest authority person. Next is social media. One of the factors that Google uses to determine a domain's authority is its amount of traffic and how long it's been around. So if you look at the top 10 highest traffic sites in the world, Google is number 1. Number 2 is Facebook. And rounding out the top 10, you will get YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. 5 of the top 10 most visited websites in the world are social media. So they have a lot of domain authority as far as Google is concerned. Get a business page. Like I see this a lot. I'll get friend requests from a business. If you send friend requests from your business, it's not a business page. It's a personal page. You need it to show up as a business so that Google knows it's a business.
Can't you invite your friends from the business page?
Yes, but yeah, it was a restaurant the other day that was like, hey, this restaurant wants to be your friend. Okay. The great thing about a business page is you don't have to do that. If I want to be your friend, if I want to see your business info, I can just go to that page and see it, just like your website. So as a user experience, it's a barrier of entry if I wanted to go to your business page and I have to request to be your friend to see it. But that's not part of this. That's more user experience. And any other associations, memberships, certifications. The Builders Association website, Chamber of Commerce stuff, BJ mentioned that earlier. And anything that, like, especially if you are a business that requires some sort of licensing or certification, the site that issues that, or the site for the company that issues that, make sure they link back to you. They probably have a list of your business if it's an important thing. See if they can link back to you.
Question, Jeff.
Yes.
Posting on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
If you, in your post, you bring the web page into it, is that helping the algorithms to?
It does. And that gets, here, helping me transition to my next point, is leveraging social proofing. So if everyone else jumped off a bridge, in today's world, everyone will jump off the bridge with you. Social proof is a psychology concept, psychological and social phenomenon where people assume the actions of others in an attempt to reflect correct behavior in a given situation. So the psychology basically just says, if you're in a room full of people you don't know, you'll try to act like them so that you fit in. But in social media, it's, I want to do what my friends are doing. And then I want to do it and show them that I'm better than them. Social proof online is a big deal because consumers are actively looking for it. This is what they're searching for a lot. So things like business reviews, which Coleman will talk about this a bit. It's going to be a new thing offered on the BBB website. So check into that. Google My Business, you can get reviews and that sort of thing. And you just, well, get to my next point here. Ask your customers for those reviews. The more you have, the better. The more recent they are, the better. And respond to the reviews, even the bad ones. Even the bad ones. Don't just delete those. Because while your next person looking for reviews may not see the one you deleted, Google knows it was there. And eventually, people won't be able to find any of your reviews because they'll just keep penalizing you for it.
It's all platforms like social media, Google reviews, Yelp, and all the other,
Yes.
That's all.
All of them. The more reviews you have, especially, because like I said, those social media sites, Yelp even, all of those, they have a lot of domain authority to Google. So if people are reviewing your site on Yelp or Facebook or anything else, Google will know that it's a legitimate business, right? Because people are actually reviewing it. Before I get to the next point, I was going to say Best Buy does a great job of asking their customers to review things. Every time I buy something from Best Buy, especially larger purchases, they send me an email a few days later. Hey, how's this working out for you? If you like it, click here to review. Drop a review, we'll give you some extra Best Buy reward points or whatever. But they do two things there. They incentivize me, I get points, and they make it really, really easy for me. I don't have to go back to the Best Buy site and find the product I bought and log in and figure out how to write a review on that. All I have to do is click that link, write my review, and it goes up.
I think that's the biggest mistake some businesses make, is making it too long a process for you to do a review instead of making it short and quick.
Exactly. I mean, and that goes with anything on your website. This is more user experience than SEO. The harder you make it for people to do anything, to read something because you picked a fancy font or just find something on your website, the worse it is. And nobody's going to want to use your website. And when people don't use your website, that's going to drop your rankings too. It's kind of a catch-22 because the more people go to your site, the better your rankings will be, and the better your rankings are, the more people will go to your site. It's kind of cyclical there. But these things today, we're just kind of talking about how to make your website more friendly so that Google knows what's there, Google has an idea of what your site is about, and can index that. Because I think I was going to mention this earlier and I skipped it. Google doesn't search all the websites in the world every time you click search. That would take hours, even for Google. So what they do is they constantly search all the websites all the time, and they just index that stuff so that when you do click search, they already know which sites they're going to send you. And that's why it happens so fast. Improve your content, number 5. But this is probably, if you listen to nothing else I've talked about today, improving your content is the big deal. Because if your site isn't worth visiting, Google's not going to send people there. Content is king. Have something worth searching for, and then because that's Google's job. Again, it's important enough to Google that they have developed a whole algorithm around it called the Panda algorithm. Panda algorithm raises the ranks of higher quality content and lowers the rank of poor quality content. Getting high quality content is not rocket science. There's a lot of companies out there that they do SEO writing and that sort of thing, and they make a big deal out of it. And there probably are advantages to all that sort of thing. The thing you need to worry about if you're writing the content for your own site is just write like a person. You'll see people a lot, because they read something about how important keywords are, and they decide, oh, well, nobody owns a surf shop, right? I didn't hear anybody say that. I'm going to use that as an example. Like, I have a surf shop in Hawaii, and I need people that search for surfing in Honolulu to find my site. So I say, hey, this is Bob's Surf Shop, the best surf shop in Honolulu. If you're looking for a surf shop in Honolulu, come visit my surf shop in Honolulu, because we have the best surf shop in Honolulu. And they just keep trying to layer that in there, and Google will find that. And that goes to that low quality ranking, and it'll drop you. So, and the other thing is to consider your audience. Write like your demographic wants to read. If you're that surf shop in Hawaii, you want to write and have people read your site and hear Keanu Reeves' voice in their head. That works. You know, come visit Waikiki. But if you're Jack Ryan's downtown, probably not a good idea to have that same tone, right? You want something a little more sophisticated. Medical industry, you probably don't want to sound like a weird California surfer guy, because that's not going to instill a lot of confidence in your patients. Unless maybe your patients are California surfers. So what are some things that you can put on your site that is good content? A good start is there is something that Google is fairly recent called Rich Answers. I know you guys have seen this. You may not know that's what it's called. It's when you search for something and the first result at the top of the page is just actually the answer. It's not even a link. It's just to answer your question. That makes Google more useful to you, and the more people that use Google, the more they can charge you to sell ad space, to sell those links at the top, that sort of thing. To do this, a frequently asked questions page on your site is a great start. And just think about all of those questions that your customers ask a lot. What kind of things can you answer for them before they get to your business? Because if they're asking you, they're probably Googling it too. Video. Video is really high-ranking content. The stat is users are 88% more likely to watch a video than read text. So you give roughly 9 out of 10 people the choice, and they're going to pick the video. That's good for you because just statistically, again, people that watch a video will retain the information 95% better than if they read the information on your blog or whatever.
Does that slow down the download speed of your page?
It can. So you do have to be careful about that. Embedding videos from Google and Vimeo will help that, and will actually help your SEO too, because, I mean, Google owns YouTube. So the other thing I'll say about videos is you should include a transcript on your page. Doesn't have to be like super visible, just a button that maybe will show that sort of thing. Because even though Google and YouTube will add closed captioning to your videos, if you didn't know that, they do. It takes them a while sometimes. The transcripts will help people that visit your page, that ADA compliant stuff. You know, if they are hearing impaired, they can know what the video is going to say. If they are at work and don't want to listen to a video because they're supposed to be working, they can just read it. And Google can search it. Google knows what your video is about now, right? Or all the other search engines. The other thing I don't like about Google's and YouTube's closed captioning is, I mean, their AI is getting better at figuring that stuff out. But has anybody ever tried to send a text message with like Siri? Does it get it right 100% of the time? No, and sometimes there's no telling what it may think you're saying. You know, if your video is about a shipyard. Yep. Oh, sorry.
As far as adding the transcript alongside the video,
Mm-hmm.
I think Google's bots and stuff are smart enough to be able to find it if you put in like a jQuery collapsible or expandable accordion, you know what I'm saying? Like click for more, and like a JavaScript thing, and then has all the text on it.
Yeah.
I think Google sees that because that's not initial activation when your page is loaded.
Right, they do.
They do.
But as long as, and I can say this to Travis because he's a web guy and I know, as long as it's not a display none, Google will see that. But display hidden, yeah, they'll.
Because it's backloaded into the page or something.
Right, because it's still there. It's just your page isn't showing it. So what he was asking is like those little accordion things you see that you click here and it like expands out and you can read stuff. People use that a lot for frequently asked questions too. Google can read that even when it's collapsed, so you don't have to worry about that.
The display hidden would be okay?
Yeah, and but that's something you have to get into the code to do. So that's yeah. But I would say every one of those little like plugins and that sort of thing that you can use for those accordions, they're going to do it the right way. And then add a blog. A blog does two things. It can establish you as an expert because you should be blogging about what you do. It gives you a way to add useful information to people that might be searching for something. If somebody is searching for what's the difference between a longboard and a shortboard as a surfer, then you can have a whole post about all the different kinds of boards. And there's like 10 of them. I looked that up today, so I didn't sound stupid when I mentioned it. I didn't want to be like, what's the difference in longboard and shortboard? And somebody that goes to Hawaii a lot is like, there's no such thing as a shortboard. But the thing about the blog is it is one of those things that can backfire if you aren't keeping up with it. You know, if you post a couple of times and then it's 6 months between your next post, that's a bad user experience. That shows Google that you are not maintaining your site, or as far as they're concerned. And it could, you know, decrease your rankings because of it. So if you're going to do a blog, be consistent. And I would say there's not any, it's too much. And when I say consistent, you don't necessarily have to post every other day. You know, if you post once every 2 weeks, that's fine. Just always post once every 2 weeks so it's consistent. And if you want to throw in an extra one here and there, that's fine. The problem is when, and I'm terrible about this, that's why I didn't have a blog for a very long time, because I would have all these great ideas for blog posts, and I would post one every week or two, and then I'd run out of those ideas, but I'd be busy and I couldn't come up with anything else, and then it would be like 2 months before I got back to it. That's terrible. So you're better off maybe not having a blog in that situation. Yeah, I am way ahead of schedule. So what comes next? Like, after all that, after you do that, the thing about SEO is it is not set it and forget it. You don't just say, okay, I checked off all these boxes and now I'm done and I don't have to worry about it again. It is an ongoing thing. You have to keep up with it, you keep monitoring it, that sort of thing. And there's reasons for that. I mean, those algorithms, they change. That penguin algorithm that I talked about started in 2012, has been updated 7 times since then. Because people keep finding ways to try to trick Google. That's called black hat SEO. I think that's one of your terms. And those ways might even work for a short period of time. Like those link farms, still to this day, if they just like spam your link out there, it might actually bump you up a few spots for a few days. And when Google catches you, and Google will catch you, they're going to penalize you for it, and you're going to be worse off than you were before. Plus out the money that you paid whoever to do that. The other thing is that technologies change. And I don't mean just technologies that Google uses, I mean technologies that we use. Just like mobile page speed is going to be a ranking factor beginning this month because more and more people are using mobile devices. Alexa, Siri, the Google speaker, all of that, they're using search engines too. And people use those and search in a completely different way. They ask them complete sentences. Yes?
So what I was reading about it is that not only is it going to take into consideration the mobile, but it's a mobile first index. So it's going to hold more weight than actual desktop.
Yep.
For your user experience, it's going to look at what is your, just FYI, that it's going to be more important for what your phone looks like than your desktop website. That's how I read it.
That is absolutely true. In fact, that was the email I could not remember earlier. I got an email this week, or no, last week, I guess, from Google saying that they are switching over to a mobile first thing. And now, according to this email, it is not supposed to hurt people that have somewhat decent mobile site. It's really designed to weed out those people that have extremely slow mobile sites or no mobile site at all. And we've all been there on our phones because we all use our phones, like all of us, that's why it's such a big deal. Where you go to a website and the whole website that's made for a desktop is this small on your screen. You can't read it. You gotta pinch and zoom, and how many of you do that for more than maybe 5 seconds before you just go, hit the back button, go back to those Google search results and find the next site. So that's what it's really targeting is people that don't have a mobile site at all. But it is going to, if your mobile site is really great and your desktop site is just okay, that might end up being better in the future. So yeah, you'll hear that a lot in design and user experience, that mobile first design. And it just means that rather than designing a desktop site and figuring out how it's going to look on your mobile device, they design a mobile website and then figure out how it's going to look on your desktop device. But yeah, back to Siri and Alexa and all that sort of thing. People ask them questions. They don't just search like, surf shops, Hawaii. They say things like, hey, where can I find a surf shop in Hawaii? How do I bake a chicken? How do I hook up my printer? All that sort of thing. And they're finding the answers on the web, just like those rich answers that I was talking about in a lot of cases. And sometimes they just direct you to the websites. Back to, before I finish, back to the race story. You know, I mentioned that, I said that if you want to be the best want Google to show you when you search for that best half marathon in North America, the first thing you got to do is be that. And if we step through that, having talked about what we talked about today, to get there first, you're going to need a usable website. No one's going to ever sign up and find out if you're a great race if they can't use your website. So knock those two out. Now, if you do become the best race in North America, what happens next? People start talking about you, right? They talk about you on social media. Influencers, if you're a marathon runner, I'm sure that there are people, obviously I'm not, but I'm sure if you are, there are people you follow and you're like, hey, what's their training regimen? What stuff are they eating? What products are they using? What races are they running? They're going to start talking about you too if it's the best race they ever run. So that starts building those backlinks. You'll also get a lot of that social proofing because everybody that's running in your race is going to talk about how great it was after they take their selfie at the finish line or at the starting line, because that's when you look the best. And all of that stuff just starts to build, and Google figures that out. So, then you have something on your site that says we were ranked the best race in North America, and Google can confirm that with all of these other sources, then you rank for the best race in North America.
Talk about the blog. Would it be beneficial, or can you link your blog to your Facebook page so that when you update your blog, it updates your Facebook page and you have to do them separately?
Oh, no, you can do that. I mean, I do that. I do it. I mean, restarting my blog now, but I did it.
It's kind of the same information, just two different ways of putting it out there, right?
It is, and it's really, I don't know that matters as much to Google, but it's just good for your customers. It's another way to let them know, hey, there's a blog post out there. And
Those of us who get hooked on Facebook sometimes don't even go to websites
yep,
unless we have to for something.
those videos are great for Facebook too, by the way. There was some stat I was looking at about how high the percentage of videos get watched with no sound now, because people are just scrolling through their Facebook feed and never turn the sound on. So those closed captioning stuff is great for that. Getting to page 1 is not going to happen overnight. It is a process. It can differ depending on where you're ranked, depending on what your industry is, the amount of competition. If you're trying to rank when somebody searches for church in Tyler, Texas, you got a lot of competition there, right? For, good or bad, there's a lot of competition for that. If you're trying to rank for, I don't know, what's something like...
Surf shop in Texas.
Yeah, surf shop in Texas. Yeah, and you have one, you're probably right up there at the top.
We have to go against people like WebMD and, even larger than that. We have to go, if someone has a spine issue or something like that, they're
Right.
on WebMD and Wikipedia and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So we're so confused now.
Right, and that's like those rich answers come easier from WebMD, and you can try to dive into that a little more and get some of those commonly asked questions and that sort of thing. Link back to that page a lot, like maybe from your Facebook page. It's like, hey, this is a question we get asked a lot. Go see the answer here, that sort of thing. And if you can get your domain authority up a little bit because more people are visiting it, then hopefully because people are probably searching, or at least your clientele are probably more local. Local results matter, and Google does take that into account. Because Google knows, and it kind of goes back to your writing for your audience too, Google knows who you are. It is scary how much Google knows about you. There's a site that's like, what does Google know about me.com or something. Yeah, who does Google think I am? And you can type in your email address and it will tell you like uncanny information, like how does it know that about me from my email address? It knows that I'm 39 years old and I live in Tyler, Texas, and I'm into tech and cartoons. And yeah, and
surfing isn't today.
oh, right. Today it's gonna. I always laugh, like I got, my iPhone is listening to me right now, so I'll probably get a lot of ads as I'm surfing the web for surfing. Surfing in the best marathon in North America. The thing about this is you just have to keep monitoring it. My thing's not working here. And there's a lot of tools to do that. Google Analytics is a great one because it's free. That's the one I use. But there's a lot of them out there. HubSpot does it. Adobe has their own thing now. They have Adobe Experience Marketing, I think. It's AEM is the acronym. All of that sort of thing you can install on your website and track a lot of things about your visitors. But as far as SEO, you can see where they're coming from. And just Googling your keyword is not enough to keep track of that and think that you're ranking higher because, again, Google knows who you are. Google knows the tone of your website. If you're my age and your target audience is teenagers and I'm Googling something, it may not come up as high for me as it does for a teenager because it's not necessarily what I want to see, but it is what they want to see, and that's what Google does. It shows you what you want to see, hopefully. And I guess that's it. That's all I got. That was 42 minutes. So, yes, your choice. Good. That's the easy one for me.